Hello, welcome back to Effluvium. This is the 10th episode of our second season, and we are delighted to have special guest Sam of My World of Fragrance. Many of you may be familiar with her. Subscribe to her and watch her wonderful videos. She's going to be joining us in a conversation regarding discontinued fragrances. Yes, the heart-aching topic of discontinued fragrances, those ones that may be near and dear to you, that for whatever reason is the production ceases. It could have something to do with it not being a good seller, or it could also have something to do with the materials not being available, or restrictions that would just render the composition unrecognizable. So Rachel and I are going to give a warm welcome to Sam in just a few, and we're going to chat about several of our favorites. We'll go in a round as we usually do, and each person will share one. So we're going to take a look at the chat very briefly here. We have 4 tuned in at the moment. This is one of our earlier streams to accommodate Sam because she is 5 hours ahead here. So this is good news for our folks in Europe and other parts of the world where this is more of an ideal time than some of our later streams. We have Clear. Hi there, my friend. Looking forward to it as well. Hi, Nikki. And hello there, Chester. Great to see you too. I'm looking forward to collaborating with you again on scented materials. Great to have you tuned in here. We're going to get things started. We're going to bring in Rachel and we're just going to check and see how things are doing. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, JJ. I'm so happy to see you. It's been a little bit, and I'm just so excited to be here. Sam is, oh my gosh, I've been watching Sam since my fragrance journey began a few years ago, and I'm just a huge fan. Sam was she's a real one. She's amazing, and yes. I'm so excited.
Yes, I've been fond of her videos and her insight for a while. So I'm just really pleased that she was willing to join us.
It's really, I apologize. I just wanted to add.
No, that's okay.
When I first started learning about fragrance, there was just a few, I didn't know a lot of people and I didn't have a lot of resources, but I just wanted to mention that it was you, actually, your writing about fragrance, and also Sam, that I kind of, and then obviously Soft Fleur Bun, which I now know them really well. And it was like kind of the 3 of you that I was reading and paying attention to. And so it's a really cool day to be here with both of you.
That's awesome. Yeah, this is exciting. We have Pat here. Pat, hi there, my friend. Welcome. And Claire says hello to you, Rachel.
Hi.
And then we have her waiting in the wings. I see her backstage. We're not going to let her wait much longer. We shouldn't have her chatting in the message. What do you call it? The chat board. Why don't we just bring her in? Are you ready? Hi.
Hi, guys. Hi. Oh my gosh, sorry about the lighting. I didn't realize.
It's like a heavenly light coming down. It's like it's kind of like it wants to beam you up. Good to have you here.
Yeah, it's 8 p.m. over here, so we're like totally different time zones.
Right. Well, I'm glad that we could accommodate something given the time difference, and I'm just so excited to have you join us in a conversation. So listen, Sam, for those who aren't familiar with you, can you just give us a little background of your, it doesn't need to be a very long-winded, however much or little you feel, like a concise sort of description of your fragrance journey and what brought you to your YouTube channel.
Yeah. How much time do you have? No, I'm kidding. So in a nutshell, I was introduced to the world of fragrances. When was this? 2010, by a friend of mine who was such an interesting character. I mean, he's since passed away, but he was like going through this journey of his own of trying to discover who he was. And somehow he got onto Fragrantica and discovered this whole world of how people were connecting with fragrances and were like basically pouring their hearts out, describing fragrances in such poetic ways. And he was telling me about this one day where we were just like having a random conversation. And I was like, wait, hold on. There are people on the internet who are that into fragrances. I was like, it was like a light bulb switched on in my head. I was like, I feel some connection to this. And I don't know why, but I need to check this out. So I went on to Fragrantica and I started reading the reviews, and I spent like half an hour, an hour, hours upon hours. I started spending all night just reading these reviews, like diving deeper, clicking on this and that, finding out what the similarities were, rushing to the shops, trying things. And I was in college at this point. I was doing like a full-time internship while being in college. So I had no time, right? So I had like the darkest circles under my eyes. I would show up at work and they'd be like, why are you so tired? And I just couldn't explain to them that this was the reason. It was kind of hush hush back then. Now it's grown into, you know, online communities and they're TikTokers, and it's just a whole other thing now where you don't really need to hide it anymore. It's kind of cool now in a way, but back then it was really weird and geeky and nerdy, and people just couldn't relate to it. They were just like, why would you, one, spend that much money on fragrances, and two, spend that much time? Like, it's a perfume, right? Perfume was something to scent yourself, to be presentable to the world, and nothing more to most people. And I was just like, I had to find my grandma's perfume. Like, it was this whole thing. So yeah, that led me to fragrances. And then fast forward to 2019, I think it was, I started my channel because I had watched YouTube years before that where there were like real amazing reviewers on this platform, and I used to watch them. Then I stopped watching them and I got out of it, and I was on my own personal discovery where I didn't want to be influenced by anyone.
Right.
And then like 10 years later, I go on YouTube and I see videos and I'm like, okay, this is totally different now. I was like, the topic of these videos is completely different from what got me into fragrance. Like, I just couldn't understand. I couldn't wrap my brain around it. And I was like, I was looking for somebody who I could relate to on the platform, and there just wasn't. It was just like very like mass commercialized, and it wasn't even about the fragrances anymore. So I was like, well, who do I watch, or who do people who are like me 10 years ago go to when they're looking for somebody to connect to? Like, I don't see very many people for them to watch. So I kind of felt like, I don't know. I just took it upon myself. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it, because there need to be options out there for people. This can't be it, right? I was like, this just cannot be it. Who has hijacked fragrance? Like, can we bring it back to the soul? So I was like, I'm going to start my channel. I'll put my stuff out there. Even if 5 people watch it, I don't care that I've influenced 5 people and helps them discover fragrances and connect with it in the same way that I connected with it, because I just knew how important it's been for me and how much value I've gained from it, that I just wanted to share it. Like, I just really wanted to share it, even if it was one person that I could help. It's just, yeah, it's been life-changing for me. So sorry for that. It was actually really long-winded at the end.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, it's fine, and it gives us a pretty good, you know, background to how you got to where you are, and it's just great to see a successful YouTube channel like yours that has retained that level of integrity and critical approach to perfume in a way that's thoughtful and insightful, without necessarily moving into the super influencer realm and doing all the partnerships and sponsorships and all the kind of stuff that's hard to navigate through if you're just discovering perfume on YouTube. So
yeah,
you know,
well, thank you so much.
No,
thank you for that. I mean, I feel like every day it's kind of like because I am a competitive person in real life, and I am business savvy in real life. I work in marketing. I know what it would take for me to become a huge channel, and every day I have to be like just pull it back. Remember why you started. Okay, remember why you started. You're not here to be a mega influencer. You're here to just help a handful of people, and that's it. And that's enough for you. Like, you're not a career YouTuber. This is still your hobby. And I just want to keep the love for it. I don't want it to seem like, oh, I have to do that sponsorship today and that tomorrow. And it's just a job and it's paying my bills. So I've really had to work hard on like letting go of that business side of myself when it comes to fragrance and to this channel.
Right,
I think
right.
that's so perceptive, because people sometimes, especially people new or younger people, they don't actually realize that a lot of people, if you just Google fragrances, a lot of the YouTube videos
Mhm.
you see are actually basically independent contractor advertisers. You know,
Right,
they're not
Yeah.
a genuine source of expertise
right,
or
right.
information about fragrance.
Yeah.
So it's channels like yours, Sam, channels like yours, JJ, and there are definitely out there, but you just have to be a little bit careful, and you really have to look for them. And so, like, mad props and thank you for me personally, because I found you early in my journey,
Oh,
right? For
thank you,
that
Rachel.
love, that education, that, I mean, like, it kept me going, and it gave me a sense of trust, you know, and those lighthouses that you need in that ocean of crazy. So
Thank you. Thank you. So that means a lot. See, like just hearing this, it's all worth it. That's it. I'm going to keep making videos just from hearing one person say that, you know?
awesome.
Well, I concur with everything that she has to say, and the, you know, the kind of content that you create, if you even want to call it content. Some people are like, content creation, but you know, for lack of a better description, what you do and what you offer, I think it's just really invaluable for those who have a true connection and a deeper appreciation for perfume. And even if, you know, opinions differ, it's just great and refreshing to see that other people are on that similar wavelength. And for those who are cynical about YouTube being kind of like a wasteland of content for perfume, you what you do and what, you know, a number of people do, it really does contradict that belief, and it's good. It's great.
Thank you. And likewise to you. I mean, I think people don't realize how much time it takes as well, like how much of your personal time goes into this, not to mention money, because
Right,
fragrances are not cheap. It's not as simple as, well, I mean, lipsticks can be expensive too, but you
right,
know,
right.
buying some makeup and reviewing that, these are hundreds of dollars per product. So, yeah, kudos to you guys. Thank you for for doing it as well.
You're welcome. Most certainly. You know, I have a, yeah, I'm at, yeah, I'm not really so concerned about the number of subscribers I have. I have 1,500 something subscribers. So it's not really a big deal to me. I just wanted to kind of grow organically. And I imagine that was the case
Yeah.
for you. It just sort of like one day you realize, wow, I'm gaining momentum here. But if you don't put that like as your first objective, I think that's where, you know, anybody who starts a YouTube channel, they retain that integrity when they're not always thinking about, you know, the stats and the numbers and the subscribers and the revenue and the AdSense and all that. You
Yeah.
just let it kind of grow on its own. So yeah, great. And now I want to ask you, before we get into the meat of our conversation, what made you to decide to choose the topic of discontinued fragrances?
Well, first of all, I have hundreds upon hundreds of topics in my head about
Yeah.
fragrance that I haven't even covered on my own platform. So it was just like, oh, okay, that would be good. You know, I didn't really contemplate it for very long, because on my own channel, I try not to talk about limited edition, discontinued fragrances. I've done one video on vintage and that's it, because
Yeah.
I feel like what helped me in the beginning was also the ability to be able to get that fragrance. I feel like I don't want to necessarily push people to spend even more than they should if they go down the vintage route, for example. And then it's also this whole other rabbit hole within this rabbit hole we're already in. So I kind of want to just like simplify it for people. If they want to try it, they have access to samples online and they can buy it.
Awesome. No, I think it's a great topic. And I think it's one that I don't think, Rachel, we've talked a lot about vintages, but the fact that discontinuation as just a topic in itself and a concept in general is something that I don't think we really dove into that much. So I thought it was a great
Yeah.
topic. So without further ado,
Yeah.
let's get started. And
Before, I'm so
oh
sorry,
yes,
Jay.
of course. No, it's fine.
I have a quick question for both of you, because as I was pulling the ones that I decided to share today, a few times I had to stop and say, wait a minute. Okay, when you say discontinued, do you mean actually discontinued and not made again, or do you mean one particular formulation was discontinued and then they might have another formulation come out later? How do you mean this? You know what I'm saying, Sam? Like, do you have an idea of what you mean in your mind by discontinued?
Yeah, personally, I meant just unavailable.
Okay, cool.
But it's open, because if it's reformulated and nothing like its former self, then I guess that's, worth discussing as well. But up to you guys.
I think it's good to kind of keep to some, I think that from what I saw from your list, Rachel, they're all obsolete now. None of them are being produced. So I think we're all going to be on the same page.
Okay.
I chose those that are no longer in production in any capacity. Like, we don't see them being resurrected, relaunched,
Okay.
So yeah, that's.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. No, because there are a few Dior ones that I was considering, because like they had a complete, like Miss Dior, you can look at the different formulations of Miss Dior, for example, and they are completely different from each other. I would consider like totally different there's a few examples out there. So I was just curious. Thank you.
No, I mean, I would be open to that. I mean, I could talk about this for like all night. So
Well, we do a 2-hour stream, so we're happy to keep it going for the usual duration. We have AM here. AM says, hello, JJ and Rachel. I haven't seen you two in a long time. I love discontinued fragrances. The forbidden fruit. Yes, the forbidden fruit, because the attachment to them, if it's discontinued, once it runs out, are you going to be able to find more? And if so, how much are you going to need to spend to get more? So we'll talk a little bit about that as we share some of our favorites. But Sam, why don't you share the first one? We're going to do a round. We usually do this when we do these kinds of discussions. You'll share one, and then we'll move to Rachel, myself. We'll just kind of go around and talk about each of them. So we'll get started with the first of yours.
Okay, sure. Where do I start? So I think I'll just start with one of the more recent discontinuations, because I'm assuming more people have tried it when it's more recent, and we can kind of get people into the live stream. Oh, here I go. Gucci Guilty Absolute Pour Homme.
Mm-hmm.
And strangely, they've kept the Parfum. So what is that about? Why did they just discontinue the male one and not the female one?
Interesting.
This is actually, I do have a theory about that. We can get into that in a bit. But I will always have this in my collection. I have backups. This is the one so this is 50 ml, I think. I keep this one in my bag, and I travel with the 50 ml. If I can get small bottles or smaller versions of a big bottle, I'd prefer that to decant, because I am a visual person as well. So I just like having the original bottle in a small format that might be, shallow or whatever, but I like it. It's part of the experience for me. And I've always been a fan of this one. I think Gucci has done historically some really nice perfumes. And this one was just like, coming from the commercial shelves, was just like, whoa, what? Huh? Like, I had to do a double take. I was like, what? Gucci? Okay, is it a private line? No, it wasn't a private line. It was their main line. I was just like flabbergasted. I was like, what? This is something I would go and smell at like Bloom Perfumery, or, from some sort of dungeon brand, is like I like to call them. So this is leathery, medicinal, dark goodness, like kind of woody, like polished woody. It can give like witchy or like sexy lumberjack vibes. Like it can go in a lot of different directions depending on what your associations are. For me, it's like pretty witchy, actually. And it's just some medicinal broth. Like this will cure whatever illness you have. If you have a sore throat, if you have the flu, I don't need regular medicine. I'll just spray some Absolute and I'll feel better instantly. It's actually kind of miraculous.
It's that eye of newt in it. Not for granted, it doesn't list it as a note, but rumor has it that's one of the notes in it. That's some extraordinary stuff. It kind of reminds me of something that could have been released by like, what's the name of that? Beaufort London. Like, it's like really
totally
like not what you would expect from a designer. The thing about Gucci is they're really good at discontinuing their fragrances. Like all of their really beloved fragrances in the fragrance community, I'll pretty
Yeah.
much all have been discontinued. Gucci Nobile, L'Art de Gucci, all the earlier Guccis, all the later Guccis, all the Gucci, Gucci Pour Homme 2, Gucci Envy, it's like, and hey, naturally this one is going to get the boot as well, because I think because it really just was not meant for the mainstream at all. Like, it was meant for diehards. They probably didn't sell enough of it, but yeah, it stinks.
But you know what? The people behind Gucci are so like fashion forward and clever that this was probably aligned with the Gucci visionaries, right? The visionaries
True.
who go out there and create the couture were probably like, yes, this fits with our collection. We do like vampy, like cool vampire stuff, right? And this fits with that. But then it goes out to the public. It was a shame with the other one, the chamomile fragrance. That I actually liked that one quite a bit. Yeah, Mémoire d'une odeur. That was actually something I considered buying, and before I could, it was discontinued. So
I know, right. And I thought that was a really interesting direction for a designer house to go into, and to sort of open up the discussion of gender fluidity and the unisex in a way that hadn't really been opened up before. And I'm just a sucker for chamomile and fragrances in general. But by the time I got around to, considering a bottle, I couldn't really find one. I was like,
right?
It's like, I was like, oh, that's going to be, I can get that for discount somewhere. So, yeah.
Yeah, it disappeared so fast. And I was like, there was a lot of like controversy around it. And you know what? The time will come, I'm sure it will, where these kinds of things are going to be more public or, more acceptable mainstream. I think that's happening with now, all of the social media influencers helping bring that across. But it just, they were ahead of their time. They just weren't, the public wasn't ready. And my theory about this one being discontinued is actually, so Gucci created their luxury line a few years ago. And if you go and smell some of their like darker fragrances in their luxury line, they're kind of along the lines of this, except I even do prefer this still. And I think that they didn't want people comparing, and then they want people to shell out the hundreds of dollars for the luxury line. And this could have fit in the luxury line. So they were like, be gone with it. People pay more.
And that wouldn't be the first time, I think, something like that happened, where they discontinued like a mid-range sort of release that's more accessible price-wise. It just gets dissolved, it gets discontinued, and then it gets pushed into like an exclusive. I mean, Chanel has made an art out of doing that for sure. Like, we're going to take this fragrance that we have produced for 80 years, and we're going to discontinue it in like the normal range. We're going to put in Liz exclusives. However, Tom Ford, on the other hand, I see them doing the opposite, but I haven't really made comparisons as to whether they're moving private blends into the more, midline kind of brand has resulted in changes to the formula. But yeah, I think that does happen a lot, where it's just, yeah.
And
So
go
ahead.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
But it would make sense that perhaps this fragrance has gotten some like critical acclaim. And so they and then think, oh, it's getting some critical attention that Gucci maybe hasn't gotten for a while. So we can use that leverage to create this luxe line. And yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's annoying though.
Yeah, surely.
But you can still get this. It was recent, so you can still get these on like eBay and stuff.
While supplies last.
Yes, get yours while you can, if you're into dark.
Right. And I know a few of our folks who tune in regularly are. Supply and demand. Speaking of supplies, supply and demand. Oh my God, it's Sam. She's absolutely stunning. Been a fan for a while. JJ.
Oh, thank you.
Clear says, I liked the TV ad starring Lana Del Rey and Jared Leto. It suggested a subversive fragrance. And Philippe, hello, Philippe. It's a meta FOMO with vintages. FOMO of not smelling them. FOMO of not being able to find it back or to replace them. Yeah. Let's move on to Rachel's selection. Let's hear what you have as your first.
So speaking of witchy, I'm actually going to start with my oldest fragrance, just because the witchiness of Sam's makes me think of this one. And I'm actually kind of glad I pulled out some of my most hardest to find fragrances, just because like, you're right. We don't really, or I don't talk about them a lot because, you know, yeah, it's the FOMO and all that, but every once in a while it is important to talk about them and share them so that people do know about them and know the history. Right. So I have very, very few precious drops left of Guerlain Djedi from 1927. And, you know, if you look up the notes, you'll see things like rose and oak moss and vetiver and musk and patchouli and civet. And when I smell it, and this is not even the original 1927. Or no, sorry. Yes, this is of back in that day. I mean, it's not like 1927. The bottle is from after that sometime. I think the sample that I got, the bottle is from like 1929, something like that. But still, it's like original vintage. And but when you smell it and when you wear it, basically I get an ambery, like a really deep ambery accord, and it's supposed to be based on ancient Egypt and the idea of like a body in a tomb, right? A sarcophagus in a tomb, a mummy, right? And that kind of and the mystery of that from obviously a Western perspective, very, very much orientalizing Egypt, right? So it's a Western perspective, orientalizing Egypt. So you have the idea of a mysterious kind of mummy and the like deep, dark magic of that, right? And of course, Egyptians did have a lot of, you know, serious religious ceremony involved in entombing their dead, especially the important people, their kings, their royals, etc. And fragrance was deeply involved with that process. And there's a lot of great history that's coming to light and is scholarly articles that are being written that's super interesting about all of that, because they did discover a lot of fragrant materials when these tombs are being excavated. But anyway, so there's a lot of like, it's a fragrance that's interesting because some of it does actually reflect some truth, but a lot of it is just this kind of orientalizing, imagining, right, of this deep, mysterious darkness, right, right. And when you smell it, the thing that for me, when I smell it, I mostly smell is animalics, right? So it has this like musky, like heavily civet, heavily like an unwashed body odor, but in a delicious, wonderful way. It also has like a leathery aspect, but to me, it's like a very, very old leather that's maybe like tattering a little bit on the edges. It's like very, very worn. It's not new. It's not shiny. It's not polished. So it's like this skankiness, but it also has a super dryness. Like it's one of the most dry fragrances I've ever smelled. Like almost like a piece of earth that's been through that hasn't had rain in like a decade or something, or maybe the sand was something they were imagining, but has that, and then it has like a woody aspect to it. So right. like uncured, like, and the leather is it's like an uncured kind of leather. So it's for me, it's closer to the leather, like a Russian leather than like a Spanish leather or something like that. But you have all these animalic, dry, dusty notes. And apparently in the original, people that have smelled like reconstructions say there's also aldehydes. There's also a little bit more of a floral touch, like there's jasmine and other things. But I personally don't really smell many florals. I don't really smell any floralcy in this at all. And it could just be the age, right? And if there is any floralcy, I would even almost put it towards like a powdery iris than I would a rose. Gotcha. Or like, yeah. So, yeah, that's what I get from it, but it is cool. And you really can, like, I really can see and evoke like the idea of like an old dusty tomb, right? Kind of that's dark, because you have like the dankness of like a basement idea, of an underground idea, with the dryness of like a desert idea. And it is kind of magical and spooky in a way, but also you have to remember this is the 1920s and they're very much like othering the idea of
and that's
burial rites, you know.
And that's what you mean by the orientalizing of it, sort of this exoticism, this this painting a picture from a Western perspective of what it should be. Exactly. We just had somebody who asked that, and I think that we just clarified that here about that term. How did you obtain this sample? I mean,
that was my question.
So I have a friend that bought a bottle, and
oh my God, they must have spent like $3,000 easily for a bottle that old.
$7,000.
No shit.
But it was like,
oh my God.
It was from an auction house, like not Christie's, but like a smaller like offshoot of Christie's, who authenticated the bottle that it was real. And so they paid $7,000, and then I bought a decant from that person.
Holy smokes!
So I think I paid like $300 for like.
No, I know, because I think they didn't they resurrect? Speaking of resurrect,
yes,
we were mentioning
that's
that earlier.
Yeah, that's what I was, because my jobless, I have jobless for later, and that one, my jobless is the recreation. It's not the original.
Yeah. No, I think the resurrections will count because they were like limited edition.
Yeah.
If it's like one of those limited editions that like Guerlain or Hermès, they've done those. Yeah, that totally will count as because they're discontinued. They're discontinued again. Like they're not around again. So wow, pretty incredible.
It's amazing. But keep in mind that the viewpoint of the people who made it, and like that, so that's part of the fragrance, right? And it's part of us understanding that history. But it's also it's a piece of art, and we all know art has history and context. Yeah. And this is a gorgeous piece of art, and you can wear it and not care about the context. You can wear it and be critical of the context and all that, but it produces a thing in the world, and this thing in the world is, to me, beautiful. And it has this horrible, this kind of terrible context, but it is, it is what it is.
No, I have my opinions on that. I think that, in some ways it's problematic and it's outdated, but also the thing is we have to understand in the context, like culturally and socially, for the most part, the intentions weren't bad. It was the ignorance that was there. But no, it's just incredible that you have some of them in your possession.
I've just been lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. All right, I'll share mine here. This is we're going to keep on the theme of witchy and mysterious. In fact, this one is Mystère de Rochat. I will zoom in here and show the bottle I have here. I love this sort of bakelite. This is actually like a deep red. The cap, like it's a deep red. I wish I could just shine it through the light. Maybe if I could. From over here, no, you can't really tell. So much for that. So this was released in the late 70s, Mystère de Rochat. This is one of the most beautiful chypres that I've ever smelled. This bottle is probably mid to late 80s version bottle. I think this is a splash. It was composed by Nicolas Mamonas, rather. He was actually the resident perfumer, the house perfumer for Rochat during the 70s and 80s. There are so many facets to this: a bitter, green, aldehydic, spicy, just a panoply of florals in it. It's just every floral that you can think of is just in the heart, and it just kind of swirls. It's sort of like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts kind of thing. But the ones that really push forward to me is the narcissus, the violet, and the carnation in this. And then you have just like this really captivating, mildly animalic, because there's some civet or whatever was used to recreate civet, and moss. There's a styrax, which gives it sort of like this rubbery, leathery kind of feel to it, and it's just super musky and woody as well. And this has been discontinued for some time, and nowadays, sadly, even for really recent bottles before its discontinuation, it's going for $250, $400, like somewhere in between that. I think more on the $400 end. So I was fortunate enough to find this, because I'm going to mention my pro tip that I seem to mention in every stream. When you're collecting vintages and discontinued stuff, to just be patient. Do a save search. Do the save searches wherever you are: eBay, Mercari here in the States, Etsy, whatever marketplace. And then eventually you may be lucky when you get an email on that save search and one comes up and it's within your price range. So this one was $100. So that is, and it's older and it's spectacular.
Bravo.
spectacular stuff. You have to be into this if you enjoy things like Magie Noire, and just like these bitter, mossy floral chypres, with just mysterious elements to it. This is like among the best of them. So that was my first selection, Mystère Rocha. On to you, Sam.
Oh, we're already done with the first round.
We already did the first round.
Okay, so my next one is another Camphorous beauty because I just love Camphorous perfumes. There's a link to my childhood with like the chest rub that my mom used to use, or like Tiger Balm and that kind of vibe. It just is so comforting to me, whereas if you read reviews where people talk about the camphorous aspect of fragrances, it's a love or hate kind of thing. So some people will be like, it smells like antiseptic or a hospital, and that puts me off. Whereas others might be like, oh my gosh, mama, I'm home. So for me,
that would be me. I love it.
Okay, perfect. So this one I was shocked to find out was discontinued as well, by Serge Lutens. This is the most recent formulation of Tuberose Criminelle.
It's discontinued?
No, wait, did they put it into the
is it back?
Jar? It might be in a bell jar. Okay, let's all join together here, and it's time for a frenzy discussion on this. I think
here, let me on my computer really quick.
So Serge Lutens is really pretty good about continuing things in production, although they disappear for a while and then return. I don't doubt that, it could be.
Wait, let me look it up.
So if you go to the website, you want to see if they've moved it to a cloche, le cloche, like a bell jar, because often that's what they keep doing. They move them from bell jars, and a lot of the Glaciers are now in the bell jars. They moved. What was the other one? They moved Mousse.
It's not on their website.
It's not. I can't find.
Are you serious? Not under the Le Cloche either?
It's gone.
I'm gonna buy one tomorrow because a backup.
Holy crap!
I had no idea.
That's what I'm saying. I was shocked because it might come back in the bell jar. Fingers crossed. It might come back in the bell jar. They did take away. Claire de Musc, I think, is back in the bell jar. But this was bell jar first, I think.
I think it was. And then they moved it to the traditional bottle for some
Yes,
time.
Then it was the regular bottle.
Yeah,
yes. And then it went gratte-ciel, sky-high prices. And then now it might come back in the bell jar, fingers crossed. But it's not on their website at the moment. So to me, that means it's discontinued.
It's so annoying when brands do that and they don't let you know. It's awful. And I'm just thank you for breaking this news, because I have like nothing left in my bottle and I need a new one right now.
I kind of wish I had sort of like some sort of interstitial thing for the stream, like breaking news, like a news flash. Whoa! And this and I would say like Tuberose Criminelle is one of the cult favorites, and like it's Serge Lutens, so cult favorite. It's like how could they stop making it? I mean, they make things like the Bois Oriental, which like nobody talks about. Some of those those are in the cloche, like the earlier ones, like the Bois series, and Bossus, like nobody, like the obscure ones are still in production. So it would really surprise me, but it might have something to do with the formula. Maybe there's some things in the formula that have been restricted and they can't use. I don't know.
It could be. I mean, I've seen most things come back. So, but if you're looking for it today, you're not going to find it.
If I can, but 1 second, I apologize. But there are sometimes, and I'm sure you already know this, but for the viewers out there, with some like Serge Lutens fragrances that are often hard to find, like, I don't know, Iris Silver Mist or something, they produce it like once a year. So if you're just patient, it's literally once a year. It'll pop up on their website for like 2 weeks, and then it'll be gone for the rest of the year. So sometimes, like, you're right, you just have, they don't announce it, they don't tell you why or when or whatever. It just appears until they sell out.
Yeah.
run. Maybe they'll make 20 bottles or whatever that make the run, and then it'll sell out, and then it's over. So I don't know if it's supply issues or what, but
Okay.
like,
Well, Paroli right here mentions Iris Silver Mist, which was the case for me because I wanted to get one of the bill jars of Iris Silver Mist, and it was just out of stock for all. It seemed like a year, and then in 2022 it appeared, and I don't think I've ever bought something faster. Again, it's like so expensive, but I was like, it's probably only going to be there for like a minute, and I bought one then. Yeah,
but at least they keep it on and say out of stock, whereas Tuberose Criminelle,
right.
It's just gone. So like
it's just gone. And also it happens a lot more with the bell jars that they restock. Like the Gratte-Ciel collection is a permanent thing.
Okay.
It should be there the same way the regular bottles are there. And these ones are available at department stores and stuff, whereas the bell jars are rarer.
Interesting. So
yeah, but anyways, how does it smell? I didn't even say.
I know that there was so much pandemonium over that. Yes, tell us about it.
So Cult Perfume, this is vampire number 1. Like, she is sleek and sweet and tuberose and camphorous and just lures you in with her evilness, but it feels so sweet that you just don't even realize that you're dead, by the end of it. So this is just, it's a sweet death. Like, if I were to go, like, this would be the way, like, like a nice, comforting camphor luring me in with tuberose. And like, this is probably the first tuberose fragrance that I ever liked. I hated tuberose before. I couldn't stand it. It gave me a headache. It was just like some screechy thing in my nose every time I smelled it. And this was my transition piece. We all have that one fragrance that gets us into a certain note or a certain ingredient. And for me, this was the one that got me into tuberose. To even like dare try some more tuberose was this one, because it is so covered and clothed in this waxy camphor.
It does smell poisonous. It smells like if you were to, well, obviously you would get sick if you drink it. It's a fragrance, for crying out loud, but it smells like
I've been tempted.
But it definitely smells like it could poison you.
It smells like an awesome poison.
Yeah, I love things like that. It's kind of like why I love things that are just so like biting green and bitter.
You know what? This could be a sister to Poison by Dior. Like,
good point, because that has that tuberose as well.
Yeah, it has a similar deadly tuberose in it.
Right.
So maybe there was some inspiration.
With that strange syrupy sweetness as well, except for the poison, it's like those like berries and black currant and plum and stuff. Yeah, no, that's totally a good call. Very cool. But it would be quite a shame if that were discontinued. So I don't know. For people who haven't gotten it yet and it was on their list.
I mean, I need a backup if that's the case, because I've used a lot of this.
Rachel, you don't have it yet. You gotta go grab it. Go look for it.
I'm literally, I get paid, I think tomorrow, and that's the first thing I'm going to buy. So thank you for the news.
All right, we'll move to you here, and
okay. My next, I'll go ahead and get out the two kind of. I only have two little samples that I'm sharing. The rest are full bottles, so I'll just get them out of the way. The other one is a little sample of Dobless. Again, just what I have, and this is a 1955 fragrance, although what I have is actually the 2004 reformulation. So the original fragrance is made by Guy Robert for Hermès, and then the reformulation was made with the help of Francois Robert, and it's a cheaper floral for women, and but to me it actually smells more like a leather scent. It does have a cheaper structure, but it really comes across as a gentle light leather. It's really elegant and refined in that very kind of Hermès way. It's got, like, I think y'all would like it. It's got that chamomile right? So it has chamomile on the top, which is very present, along with some coriander and thyme. It's like a really kind of classic rose jasmine heart. And then on the base is a very classic chypre base with some beautiful oak moss, leather musk sandalwood, and it truly is like a really polished, like refined leather. Like, you know, like if you go into a super old library at a university, like if you went to Oxford or something, and you'll have like, or at least I went to University of Chicago, which is not as old as Oxford, but they have these old chairs that you think that chair was put there in 1855 when the university opened, and it's like just this really good quality but well-worn leather. People have been sitting in it for 2 centuries. Like that's what I picture. And just like a really well-worn chair. It's surprisingly light because when we think of chypres, at least when I think of a chypre, I think of a huge, bold 80s chypre. And when I think of leathers, I think of huge, big scents. And it's not. It's all those things. It is a chypre. Everything that a chypre has is there. It is a leather. Leather is for sure there, but it's incredibly light. It's incredibly refined, and somehow that all that is there. And I think it's really interesting. And I don't think it's because of the age of the sample at all. I just think that's the way it's constructed. And yeah, it's really cool. It's really interesting. Oh, and it's definitely powdery. There's definitely a powdery aspect that's kind of that 50s vintage thing. Yeah, it's a really cool fragrance.
How easy is it? Oh, yeah, I know, right? That's why I was like, how easy is it to obtain? So how long ago was the relaunch of it? The
2004 was like the special. They made special, and then they auction them off at these like private auctions. Kind of is how it works. So my advice to people who are actually super serious about getting vintage bottles is there are these, and so I got to know Véronique Coty at a vintage auction in Chicago, and at fragrance museums, they'll kind of have information about these vintage auctions, and you can kind of get on these lists, right? And I mean, you got to have oftentimes thousands of dollars to throw around, right? Or, you know, or at least get to know some of the people that go there, and you can get these vintage bottles that have been, you know, they authorize them that yes, this is a real. This is not a fake. This is a real. Like they can, you know, just like any antique, right? They know the purchase history, the ownership history. They can authenticate.
Authenticating.
Yeah. So, but they're really like high tier, you know, like really collectible, high tier, you know, kind of fragrances. But they exist, and you can definitely, you know, talk to people about them and look at the catalogs and see what's there. Like to see if it's worth it for your, you know, if you want to save up money to get one thing, or maybe a group of people can go in and buy something, right? So that's definitely, those are definitely things that happen. You just have to like kind of, my advice would be something like go to ask a regular auction house that's in your area, go to like a fragrance museum and ask them. They'll probably have information about this. There is actually an antique fragrance bottle association in the United States that actually does some of these too.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a little outside of our online fragrance community.
Right.
There's kind of these other, and it's more like auction museum type people.
Right.
But they do exist. Yeah.
This is definitely when one gets to the level of having museum pieces. Like if I had these kinds of things, talk about dent anxiety. Like I wouldn't want to dent it. So there's a whole concept that I've been talking about called dent anxiety. It's this irrational fear of like using the very stuff that's meant to be used.
Yeah.
And I just get anxiety from it. And it's also why I also hate taking pictures of bottles that look like they've been used. I have to put them on their side. That's a whole other psychological discussion for another time. But
yeah.
But something like that, they're like those are historic artifacts. I would have to put them in, you know, in like enclosures away from all conditions, and like visit. It would be like you know, a ritual to like even put a tiny amount on. It's like that kind of level. It's powerful stuff. Like yeah. I don't know if I'll ever get to that point as a collector, because I mean, you know, I got bills to pay and places I want to go, and like money to spend elsewhere. But it's fascinating though. Claire has a question for you. Does it resemble a Val de Nuit? because she gets an old library effect.
That's a great question. I would say actually no. Vol de Nuit, that's a great question. I wonder if people say that it does. For me, Vol de Nuit is, this one is lighter and it's happier, if that makes sense. For me, Vol de Nuit is bluer. I don't know. I hope this Vol de Nuit is bluer. It's also more melancholy. It's also more like, is there violet in Vol de Nuit? I don't remember, or maybe iris in Vol de Nuit.
Definitely those ionones and
Ionones,
which
okay,
is
yeah.
iris and violet. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So there's none of that in Daublas. Daublas is much sunnier, if that makes sense. It's not dark at all. It's a very bright, light fragrance.
It does. Makes perfect sense. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, it's a great question.
I should trademark dent anxiety. I'm gonna do a whole video on it.
Oh yeah, you should.
So I have mine next here. We're rounding off I think we're on the second one. Wow. Let's see if we can get through all 6 or 7 in 2 hours. All right, let me just zoom in here and share the next one. This is Ebin de Balmain. Ebin de Balmain.
Wow.
This was released in 1982. It was in production for, I believe, 14 years until it was discontinued sometime in the 90s. This, I believe, is an 80s bottle. It is immaculate. And let me tell you something. Like, would you look at this box? This was sitting somewhere. The box is perfect. It was sealed. Beautiful. I love talking about the packaging and everything,
I love I've just admitted that I just love packaging. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. It's like it's part of the fun. Like, it isn't just
part of it. It is.
It isn't just about the juice. Like, let's be real. For us who are fragrance nuts, it's the whole experience. I mean, I love this Pignol font that's used. This is also, I don't think this is used for the Ivoire, but Pignol. Pignol is a type of font. So now I'm going to get into a little freaking lecture about typeface, but this is the same typeface that you might recognize, the Mary Tyler Moore typeface, if you remember that show. I love Pignol. So we'll open this up and I'll show the bottle. And mind you, the juice is a bit darker than it was. Now this was cared for very well, or left somewhere away from conditions that would really spoil it. The thing is that there is enough vanillin in this, even though vanilla is not even of that forward of a note. But any fragrance that has even a bit of vanillin over time is going to darken. So these bottles have a darker color to them. Now look at this too. I don't know if you can make it out, but this faux wood grain on the cap. Oh, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. Whether it's real wood or faux wood, I love.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Give us the wood. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And and you gotta love an exposed crimper, because that was a thing.
You need to stop.
This is the epitome of this is like vintage prawn right here, because
it's too much.
The exposed crimper, because at the time it wasn't as much of a concern to conceal the crimper until they decided that was a thing, and then now everything associated with an exposed crimper is considered to be a cheap drugstore fragrance. But this was not a cheap drugstore fragrance. So Ebin de Balmain, about the fragrance itself, this is what I call either a Chigère or a Fupra. But Fupra kind of sounds a little bit like something else, so I generally go for Chigère instead. Because it has elements of a fougere and a chypre. It starts off with this artemisia, armoise, as it's also called, mugwort. It is this bitter, piney kind of herb. There's a mintiness to the top. There's caraway and all other kinds of umbellifers, caraway, cumin, fennel, the whole 9 yards, anise, basil, green, like really this lush and bitter green herbal opening. And, of course you can have citruses there, because the citruses, they level out everything. And then when it dries into the heart, it's much more, it's like a coniferous floral. if that makes sense, because it's it's like a piney, but it has like all the jasmine and all that good stuff kind of like supporting it. And then it dries down really beautifully mossy, the labdanum, it's leathery. Leather was a big thing for fragrances marketed to men. And of course, because it's a fougere, you have like a little bit of that tonka bean and vanilla in the base. And this is going to be the one for today that I'm actually going to spray on because it's time for me to have a scent of the evening. So I'm going to put a little bit on and enjoy it. And there you go. That's a Bain de Malmont. Unfortunately, this is very hard to obtain now. I don't know if I'm partly responsible for it and contributing to the hype machine here or there in my reviews and stuff. So I do apologize if it's my responsibility. But oh God, is it beautiful, beautiful stuff. And eminently unisex as well. Love it. Oh my God, it is filling up my room. Oh my God.
You got some decent sprays in.
Oh, I did. I had to.
That hand looked wet.
I had to saturate. So oh God, the spearmint, it's totally spearmint. It's like a spearmint with pine, with like that artemisia. There's actually this component, this chemical component, a constituent called thujone. And thujone is named after a type of conifer called thuja. It's like related to cedar and it has a high content of it, but it's in all these other plants. So thujone is also in wormwood and in other types of plants in that family. Artemisia, wormwood's in the Artemisia family. So that's what I'm getting here is that wormwoody, piney, herbal, basil. I'm feeling the basil now. Oh my God, this stuff is gorgeous. Okay, I'll stop. Not going to take up too much time. Sam, I'm going to pass it over to you.
I'm just getting like smell envy from all these descriptions. Honestly, I just want to jump in the screen and
that's one I have
steal your bottle.
Dent anxiety, serious dent anxiety. I looked at the bottle like, oh, is it dented? I sprayed that much. It's too precious.
Yeah, you did 4 sprays. I was very proud of you.
Precious liquids. All right, Sam, what is your next choice?
Okay, so interesting because on the last bottle, which was Tuberose Criminelle, we ended up bringing up poison. And I do have one of the poison line discontinued fragrances.
Nice.
Can you guys guess which one?
The original or?
No, not a reformulated one, like gone.
Oh.
Okay, you didn't see my video on poison. Anyway.
Oh, wait. Wait.
I was testing you. No, I'm kidding.
I was muted. So.
Oh.
So it's a discontinued. So I also was reading the comments too because like a million came up. So is this a flanker to poison?
Yes.
Is it Tondel poison?
Very good guess, but it's midnight.
Oh, midnight poison. Okay.
So midnight poison it just reminds me of the 2000s, like 2000s patchouli. A lot of patchouli fragrances were on the market. I wasn't at that point as fluid in my choices of fragrances. Like I pretty much stuck to the female aisle back then. And there was this reoccurring theme of this like patchouli, this like processed patchouli. I wore a lot of white patchouli by Tom Ford back then, and that was a similar type of clean patchouli. It wasn't like, you know, the earthy, nice patchouli that you get with smaller brands. This was like this mass processed thing, but I love it. There's something about it, like it's chemically, it's not real patchouli, but I love it. It draws me to it. It reminds me of like party days. It's sensual and inviting in its own way. And this is a rose patchouli. Rose patchoulis have gone through an evolution, and rose patchoulis that are released now are more like along the lines of Eau Capitale by Diptyque, and Portrait of the Lady, I guess, is also rose patchouli. So they've really evolved and changed, but this will just be one of those firsts for me. Like this will just, remind me of something. The top notes have gone, so I do need to not have dent anxiety and just wear it because it's gonna go bad like within the next 5 years, I assume, because it's been sitting out. I haven't preserved it in any way. So yes, I need to be wearing this more.
And how old is that bottle? The bottle that you have, when did you purchase it?
I purchased this over 10 years ago, probably. And I've been savoring it. Because then it was discontinued, and I was like, oh no, put it to the back of the shelf, you know?
Yeah.
Don't reach for it anymore. I
Yeah,
have less than half of it left.
that's the tough part. Some of them, it's just like once you start using it, you got to start like once the level goes down enough and you have like some oxygen in the bottle, some of them are just much more volatile. Like I was just reading a post on Instagram recently from one of my favorite Instagrammers on there, Nose and Rose, and she was mentioning how Van Cleef and Arpels First, like it's been impossible for her to find a vintage version of it that hasn't turned. So she just goes for like the minis because the minis less oxygen to get in, less likely to have turned. But there's a lot of fragrances that are like that where, you know, that's another thing to contend with. Like you either hold on to it or you use it because otherwise it's going to go. You know what? Actually, Sam, I am not familiar enough with Midnight Poison to really respond to it, but now I'm kind of now I kind of want to sample it and just get the experience of that. Yeah, Rachel, are you familiar with it?
Yeah, so not enough, even though, okay, and I'm sure you guys are all, well, maybe not. I'm horrible. I have a bottle of that I have not opened in my closet. I went through this weird, like, before, I went through this weird phase when I saved up a bunch of money and I started buying a crazy bunch of fragrances that I still have yet to study or open. I have like, you guys would be, it's embarrassing. And I need to rewatch Sam's Poison video. I wrote a note to myself that I'm going to do that like homework. And I like, and I'm going through them as in an organized way. And so I haven't really studied Poison yet. And I don't want to open them until I'm like ready to like really go through them, like like I have all these. I'm a really big dork. I have like a plan laid out for certain fragrance lines and certain like
That's
that
awesome.
I'm like when I'm ready for them, like stuff that I haven't lived through. Do you know what I mean? That I don't remember from my own lived experience. So
Yeah, but you know what? That makes total sense. And I've done the same thing, except I didn't buy them before I was ready to try them. I didn't pre-plan it. It was like, you know, I think that's a really actually good tip to go through the eras systematically and really just see how the evolution takes place and what differences there are and what notes become popular and in you know, whichever era it is. So yes.
That is a cool idea, you know, traversing the timeline. And as you're doing that, noticing the subtle shifts and changes and new trends and you know, how certain tropes and perfume come to the surface over time. Yeah, that's a very, very cool sort of idea.
I'm trying to, because you know when you first start, and this is how I was when I very first started, you're just grabbing for anything anywhere and it's not, there's no rhyme or reason. So I'm trying to kind of go back again and be more systematic about it. And I'm trying to, when I see a fragrance that's vintage, that's a good price, I'm just going to buy it, you know, and just put it aside because, you know, prices are crazy and I feel like they're just going to get crazier. So
yeah,
inflation, everything is getting out of control and people want to, you know, make money. And
you can always resell vintage. It's never a bad idea.
That's true too, and that's why I what I do occasionally is I take inventory because of course I have like an ungodly irrational amount of perfume. I go through like the spreadsheet that I have and I just take inventory and I'll highlight things where I'm kind of on the fence. I'm like, should I sell this? And you know, eventually like that's the way of kind of like culling things. And with a lot of it, you know, a lot of it thankfully doesn't depreciate. Highly coveted things especially. So yeah, Rachel, why don't you share with us your next selection?
Yeah, and so since Sam shared a beautiful memory that's so powerful, and a scent is so powerful and it's so connected with memory, like physically in our brain, right? So connected with memory and experience. I'll give you kind of my real perfume awakening one of them. When I grew up, it was all because, you know, when you're a kid, sometimes you're just given fragrances, you don't really pick them. And the ones that were given to me were Anais, and Ralph Lauren Safari. Those were the ones I just grew up wearing because the adults handed them to me. They're great and I love them and they're beautiful. And I have strong memories of those. But my first fall in love, my own fall in love fragrance was, I was living in Paris. I was studying abroad. I was studying continental philosophy at Paris 4, which is like an offshoot of the Sorbonne. It's not as impressive as it sounds. But I was walking down the street in Paris, going to school, and this lady walked past me, and it was just this cloud of perfection and gloriousness. And I chased her down the street, and I asked her what she was wearing. And then it ended up being the original Maurice Roussel formulation of 24 Faubourg for Hermès. And
You're kidding me. I had that in mind.
Oh, cool.
Oh, you have that as a selection as well?
No, you were telling me the story of what happened, and this lady walked past you, and you smelled perfection, and I immediately thought it's 24 Faubourg.
Really? Oh my God.
Wow.
Okay, so you're a witch. You're a psychic witch. Use your powers for good. I know you'll use your powers for good. That's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah,
And you know why that happened to me as well with 24 Faubourg? Not like it's happened to me several times with that exact fragrance.
Oh my
The
God.
sillage of that fragrance has like a chokehold on you.
Yes. I'm convinced it's the reason my husband married me, because I used to wear that when we first started dating.
Okay, anyone looking to get married, get this perfume.
Yeah. And the discontinued bottle is actually the extrait, which is discontinued. So the extrait is discontinued.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
It's bad. And the thing is, so I love specifically the original formulation, which has a much bigger base. There's oak moss in the base. It's much more complex. It was released in, I think, 94, 95 by Maurice Roussel. It belonged in the 80s, honestly. And it's a big, gosh, what is that fragrance called? Orange flower, like not orange flower.
Like orange blossom, neroli.
Yeah. Like fragrance. With a big white floral bouquet, right?
Yeah.
But it's opulent and it belongs kind of belongs in the 80s, right? In that way. But the original formulation with Maurice Roussel had a much bigger base with oak moss. And then Jean-Claude Ellena reformulated it, and that's the current formulation now, which is fine. It's totally fine. It's still gorgeous. It's still beautiful, but it's in the Ellena style where it's much more streamlined, right? And
Roussel's more oil painting, and Ellena is more watercolor.
Exactly.
In his approach, yeah.
Yes.
That's the way
Yeah. And I would say extrait is the absolute pitch perfection of the two men's styles, like the balance between the two styles.
And how much is this bottle that I now need?
So I found it online for not too much, probably like $200.
For what it is, for its scarcity, that's not that bad. Yeah.
I found it on eBay for probably just under $200.
Does it still wear with a beautiful sillage?
Yeah, it's perfection. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. I think I have two of these maybe, so it's still findable.
Did you say extrait or parfum?
Parfum.
Like
sorry,
just
parfum.
what's written on it. Yeah.
Parfum.
Okay.
Parfum.
Awesome. That's what I'm doing after.
It's amazing. Like, it's so delicious. And it was my real, and I wore the Maurice because I went immediately to it's funny because at the time, I guess they were changing over the formulations, and I went to the main Hermès store and I said, I need 24 Faubourg. And she said, oh, take this bottle. Do not get this bottle. You must do this bottle. And thank God for the SA, that wonderful.
You had a good one.
I did. And she's like, you trust me, this one. And so I wore it every single day for probably a decade until I couldn't find the original formulation bottles. And this is before I got really into perfume. Actually, it's one of the reasons I got really into perfume. It's because I was like, a friend of mine picked me up a bottle of 24 Faubourg, like in the airport, on our way back from Brazil. And I was like, why does it smell so different? This isn't my perfume. Why does it smell so? And then I learned, did research, and I learned, because they changed them. And that was one of the reasons I got into perfume. The other one was I used to be a sommelier, and so I wanted to keep using, when I got pregnant and I couldn't drink, using my sense of smell. So, but that was the other reason, is I was like, well, why can't I find my favorite perfume, like my ride or die perfume? And and then I learned about the reformulation and what that meant, and that happens, and because it's so perfume is so complicated, obviously. And but anyway, yeah, and that was just my
goodness.
like, when I pass away, I want to be wearing this perfume. Like, that's how much.
Oh my goodness.
So somebody will make sure that the funeral director has that bottle. And
Yeah.
yes. Do you know that is actually part of the process? You like, if you're filling it out, not to be morbid and talk about like the process, but perfume. And you choose, you provide a bottle of that person's favorite perfume, and they can smell like that perfume.
That's lovely, actually.
Yeah.
You know who else wears 24 Faubourg? Early Greek. He has a YouTube channel.
Yes,
he's a good pal of mine. We go way back, Thomas.
I can just like imagine him, like when he pulled out the bottle and was like, he wears this. I could just imagine it. I could just imagine him in his cozy sweater, wearing that fragrance, and just what kind of like warm impression you would get of him. Like, I think it would really give a warm impression on a man.
Totally.
Thomas is like a warm impression embodied,
right?
He is just a very warm individual, but also he has such a great sort of ribald sense of humor. One of my other friends, Ryan, kind of compares him to kind of like Orson Welles at time with his delivery. And
honestly, he's like the uncle or grandpa we all want.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's
this,
wonderful.
It's such a bright, like, orange flower. I think it's actually African orange flower they use, but it's such a bright. It's complex, but it's also just bright, warm, like solar. Like, it's everything. It's all these different layers. So elegant and eloquent, but it's also warm and solar and vibrant, and I don't know. It's the best. I love Maurice Roussel. He's a fab.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Clear here says death is not a morbid topic, in my opinion. I completely agree.
I agree.
I think I always end up saying that because because of the discomfort of others when bringing up death. Like, I can feel that discomfort with some people, but I actually thought about doing a video of fragrance and death, and wondered if that would be the death of my channel. But
no, I would love to watch that. And I was thinking today, when I was thinking about this live stream that was going to happen later, I walked past a church, and there was like there was a funeral going on. There was like one of the I forgot the name of the cars, like parked outside.
Hearse.
And I was like thinking, gosh, what's going to happen to all my fragrances when I die? I was like, can we just talk about that? Like, who is actually going to wear all of my crap that I've left over? Because it's very personal as well, right? Like, I personally handpicked each one.
Yeah.
So no one could just like take over my collection or wardrobe and make it their own.
Right.
You're in Europe, right?
Yes.
You should donate it. You should donate it, because I know they take them. You should donate the really good ones to the what is it called? In
Osmotech?
The Osmotech.
Oh, okay.
And places like
I
this,
have some.
like
I definitely have some Osmotech stuff like sitting around that they probably appreciate. Yeah. Let me share mine. I have this in my hand. Like pregnant pause there, thinking about my death and what I'm going to do with it. All right, here's mine right here. This is Ennui, and this is from Shiseido, and I have had a recently ignited love affair with Shiseido as a perfume house. And this to me is like the apotheosis of Shiseido. This is another Chypre, released in 1976. And speaking of pine, we're in a pine theme. This is another pine-focused fragrance. Okay, so let me share this too. Do you guys like the pamphlets and the inserts that are in boxes of older?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'll show you this. So I have a few bottles like this. Like I should just do a post or something on all the pamphlets that I have. So we have it here. This is cool. The pamphlet. So it's all folded, and then you open it up. Very careful, because paper as it ages gets a little more brittle. So I don't want to tear it. And then we open it up, and this is what we have in different languages.
I'm loving the ASMR of this crunchy paper.
Yes.
I know, because like I said, the paper as it gets older, it is very ASMR-y. That's my mic right here. So I will read this. I want to read the ad copy on this. Ennui, indefinable, illusory, unforgettable. Ennui, by far the most luxurious, elegant, sophisticated international fragrance ever created. Ennui combines the unforgettable, indefinable qualities of art and fragrance to create a great masterpiece. Just as art is timeless, so is ennui timeless. Ennui is for you, a woman or man, or anything in between, or other, whatever you identify yourself.
Yeah.
Let's keep it inclusive. Finds self-expression in art and in fragrance as elegant, sophisticated, urbane, worldly, and worldly as you. Thou is for you, the multi-person woman, etc., who surrounds her, his, etc., very being in beauty, be it art or fragrance, just as art knows no boundaries, east, west, north, south. There were ellipses there, but I'm trying to speed it up. So ennui knows no boundaries. Ennui artistically blends the cool greens of the forest depths and the harmony of meadow herbs and flowers with the richer flowers of rose and jasmine to create a warm, rich, mossy, woody fragrance. Ennui, cool, collected, bright, and brisk, dries as a warm, alluring suaveness, the perfect fragrance for today's all-day pace. We're talking about the 70s. We're talking about the 70s independent woman who was, working all day, bringing home the bacon and frying it in the pan. Ennui is an indefinable, inexplicable, illusory, and unforgettable as you are, ennui. And we have it in French, and we have it in Spanish, and we have it in German, and we have it in Swedish. I think that's Swedish. And then, of course, we have it in Japanese. And that's in the middle. That's in the inside of it. We'll show you the bottle. We'll talk about it a little bit. I don't want to take up too much time and gab. But here's the bottle.
Cool.
Oh.
Monolithic, mirrored top. And you open it up.
Oh.
And Shiseido does not have an exposed crimper. They were ahead of the times. And this is another one that is very herbal and green and piney, but it has like a very forward jasmine and what I detect is like a freesia, and it's a good freesia note. Freesia notes are not always agreeable with me, but it's just this kind of like coriander, fresh, spiky, peppery kind of freesia. There's something that kind of reminds me of like juniper berries in it as well. There's a galbanum, and it dries down kind of incensey and mossy, like almost like some myrrh in the base. And it definitely, it speaks to that aesthetic of Shiseido as having this certain quiet luxury to it. Like none of the Shiseido fragrances ever are bold and brazen. They're very understated, and I think that does reflect, because we're talking about a Japanese brand, reflect the culture, and the fragrances are generally more subdued. However, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily quiet. They definitely have an atmosphere to them, but there's just something kind of alluring and sort of mysterious about them. And they're more about the sillage than the projection. Does that make sense? Like they're not projecting really far, but you'd be surprised at the sillage that will be behind you or around you when you're wearing it. But beautiful, beautiful stuff. It's been discontinued for some time, and that's one of my favorites.
Sounds so lovely.
Yeah.
So when do we go to your house and smell all of these?
I'm happy to make appointments if somebody.
Where do you live?
I'm going to announce it on my. I live in Massachusetts.
Open house in 2 days.
Okay, that's pretty far for me.
Yeah. Maybe if you're in town, if you're in the area, call me, hit me up. All right, now it's time for your turn.
Oh, mine or Rachel's?
Yours.
Sorry, I can't keep track. Oh my gosh, I'm like so into what you're saying that I just completely lose track of time and space and all that. Okay, so my next one is to redeem the face of a fragrance brand which has gone to shit, to say it mildly. Paco Rabanne. This is Calandre.
Oh, nice.
Which is,
we love
We love Calandre, I hope.
Yeah, I was just saying we love, period. It's just we love.
And this one actually took me a while to actually buy. I had it in my basket so many times. Then it was sold out. Then I was like, do I really need it? Because there were comparisons to number 19. I'm going to actually spray this on my sleeve. Which I love. I love number 19. I have like real fond memories of number 19 with my mom. And so I was like, do I need another 19 flanker or 19-esque fragrance? And yes, I did need it. It's so good, guys. So it's aldehydic, it's green, it's very similar to 19, it is, but it's like softer. It's like the cloud version of number 19. It's like, it's also kind of metallic-y. Something in it reminds me of Rive Gauche as well.
Right.
That kind of style that's metallic-y and then very oak mossy as well. And it's very clean and rich at the same time. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. I have some comments on Calandre myself. Calandre actually predates Rive Gauche and number 19. It was sort of the, I wouldn't say it was like the innovator of that style, but it was a forerunner. And there's something uniquely muted about it, and muted in kind of like this pastel way that even more so than say Rive Gauche and number 19. And I think that's what I get from it. Just that beautiful sort of liminal space between joy and melancholy that I get from it. Whereas with like Rive Gauche, it's sort of like, here I am, come and get me.
Yes.
Like Rive Gauche is like an explosion of aldehydes. And then number 19 is sort of like, I'm over here, if you want to talk to me. Like, I love how it's aloof like that. But Calandre is sort of like a little bit more on sort of like the, pensive poetic side of the three, if that makes sense.
Both of your descriptions are absolutely beautiful and poetic. And I have a bottle in my closet that I haven't smelled in a couple years. I'm going to get it out after we do this and wear it tonight. Sam, do you have is it the EDT you have?
I think it's the EDT. Yeah, it is.
Is there even an EDP of this one? I don't remember.
I haven't seen an EDP. I haven't found an EDP ever.
I'm not sure there is one yet. Okay. Thank you I wanted to, thank you. I think it's just an EDT. Yeah.
So yeah, Paco Rabanne, what the hell happened? Everything is like sugar syrup nowadays. And this is so far from it that you're just like,
it's the opposite. Like,
it's a complete opposite. And they had to get rid of these because they'd probably confuse people if they had this on the same shelf as the things they now release.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a shame.
Another brilliant one, which came out about 10 years later, maybe 7 or 8 years later, is Metal.
Yeah.
And that is when the style is taking in a far more like crisp green biting floral direction. It's much more like hyacinth and lily of the valley and narcissus and really bright. It's kind of like, if you like things like Giacomo Silence, it's just sort of like that similar vein. Not the same though. Like there's two different shades of.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Two different tints of green. They're tinty. That's more of like a shade. That's a pastel shade, and those others are tints. But
and then it also, I keep interrupting. And then it also, that one, Calandre, makes me also think of Gucci Envy for Women by Maurice Roussel from like the 90s, I think, like 95, something like that. That same metallic green, which is so refreshing and so interesting. Although I think Calandre is a much more complex fragrance than that. Yeah.
So there were just a couple stark comments here that I wanted to share. Just wanted to give my appreciation for, yes, the sweater that I am wearing. It is a Pendleton.
I love it too.
And I'm a fan of Pendleton sweaters. They're my favorite sweaters to wear. They're pricey, but worth it because they're very well made, quality. And
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to stop like influencing us on fashion as well, because now my list of things to buy after this live stream is gonna cost me way too much money.
Who knew that I was such a fashionista? But yeah, I have my moments. Sometimes I show up to a live stream with an old T-shirt and a hoodie, but I like my sweaters. It's definitely sweater weather here because it's in the 20s or in Fahrenheit. Like it's below 0. Chester, it would be great to write down some memories you have with each of your perfumes from your collection, like little notes, and keep them with your collection. Yeah, like sort of like an index of your memories and your experiences and associations. I think that's an excellent idea. Back to the chat as well. This is the thing about being the host and producer here. I want to just make sure I got everything covered. I think I have a bottle of Calandre with something like $27 on the fragrance at X for months. It was very affordable while it was still in production. Yes, I'm glad that you appreciate that. The crispness and empty scents.
That's right.
Yes, crisp. Yeah, it does have a crispness. Crispness.
Yes,
Good evening, sirs and madams. Good evening to you, Empty Sense.
Good
Thank
evening.
you very much, Claire. Rachel, your next selection.
All right, so my next selection, we're going to go old school again. This is
Cool.
a vintage by Coty, but from the real Francois Coty, not the big corporation.
Coty.
This is Styx.
Ooh, look at that bottle.
From 1921. I don't know what's that.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
When it has this beautiful, I don't know,
Stopper.
again, I'm bad with the focusing, but this beautiful cap.
Look at that frosted stopper.
Yeah, and so it's oh gosh, what is the famous crystal bottle maker's name?
Lalique.
Lalique, thank you. So it's it's from that short period of time when Lalique and Coty were business partners, and it's gorgeous. So it opens with, and again, these top notes are gone, but historically it opens with some citrus, and a really unusual combination for top notes of ylang and galbanum, which I was like, oh, I wish I could still smell that part. But
it would be like an unripened banana.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's right. Interesting. That's so funny. And then the part that I still can smell, which is the middle and the base, is so cool. Oh, and so the name is based on the Styx River from Greek mythology, and that is the river, just so you know, to give you again a sense of the emotional conjuring that they're going for here. The river Styx is the river that you are supposed to cross after death. So basically what happens in Greek funereal rites is they would put a coin over your mouth or coins over your eyes so that you would have these, or in your mouth even. So you have different souls in Greek mythology, but the soul that goes to Hades or the underworld, and it's not like hell or heaven, it's just an afterlife. You'd have these coins to pay the ferryman to take you over the river Styx into the underworld. Which it's not like really good or really bad, it's just the underworld, and where Hades lives. And if you don't have coins, then you're like kind of a wandering soul. And anyway, so the river Styx is kind of melancholy, kind of dark, kind of spooky, kind of you don't want to go swimming in the river Styx, right? So that's kind of like what they're going for. And the base, or the heart, which is really, I think, a cool evocation of the idea of the river Styx, is orris, incense, and violet. And I think that's just a really cool combination of notes. Is and it depends on how they do the irones and the ionones with the orris, but what kind of frankincense they would use, obviously. So orris, incense, and violet. Again, cool combination of this idea of the river right before you get into hell, right? And then the base notes, kind of amber, patchouli, vanilla, and oak moss. So kind of a traditional base, but it's just a really interesting and cool, again, kind of back in those days, kind of a little bit obsessed with maybe some darker, witchier, spookier, again, ancient topics, which, why wouldn't you be? I mean, I'm obsessed with Greek mythology. I always have, and it's really cool, and it's lasted pretty well. So
very nice.
Yeah. And again, you can actually, with old Cotys, you can still find them on eBay, because I think people they're not worshipped like Guerlains are, and Coty was just as important as Guerlain. So.
Yeah. There's some great Cotys that come up, but I am kicking myself for not getting that 60s version of Styx. It was one of the last runs of it. I remember I showed you. I was like, I'm gonna get this once I'm ready.
Yeah.
It'll come up again though.
Yeah.
And I love and it comes up so seldom in perfume, the juxtaposition between orris and violet with incense. You don't see that too frequently, but when it does, it's like it is. You're absolutely right. Very, very cool and sort of. What's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say grim.
Well, it's cool. It's
funereal.
Yeah, it's cool and it's complex, but it also evokes a religious tradition that's like basically been handed down to us from the ancient times and from that area of the world. And so it's complex historically, even like unconsciously, like, you know, so interesting and layered, while also giving that cool shadowy world, you know. So interesting.
Very nice. Great.
Awesome.
A great contribution to the discussion. I'm going to go to my next one here. All right. So the next one I have is from Guerlain. Guerlain's Patou. This is the Eau de Toilette. This was a limited edition bottle. Check out the box.
Beautiful.
And this was actually limited edition in 1994. They did these 30 mils. They did this. They did it for this and also for Jardin de Bagatelle. And here's a little bottle.
Wow,
that's so cool. I want that bottle.
Isn't that neat? I'll try to see if I can zoom in. See, so the label also matches the print on the box. Patou is an unusual fragrance. It was never a commercial success for Guerlain. Some people have accused it of being a little too fusty and outdated. When it was released in the 70s, it is, but it is beautiful. It has this plum in it, this sort of dried fruit that contrasts with like a greenness. There's a narcissus and a lot of orris in the heart, even some lilac, and dries to this sort of mossy, leathery, ambery dry down, just like a true Chypre extraordinaire. But it's just so antique smelling. It just wasn't made for its time or any time after it. I don't even know what time it would have been made for. It's kind of like it's like kind of similar to Jean Patou's in that sense, where Jean Patou, Jean Kerliot did not really care that the styles that he was composing were like 30 years out of date, but they still release them and they're brilliant in their own right. There's one line that I shared in my review. I wanted to mention that there's this sonority to this, as if that makes sense, like a sonority. Yeah. It just like has this sonorous kind of glow when you're wearing it, but it's like this, it's kind of intellectual smelling, if that makes sense. Luminous, hazy. It just this is what I wrote in my review. It may have been a bit too much for the ordinary world to handle, if that makes any sense. Like, it wasn't one that the normies, so to speak, could handle, because it was just so complex and complicated and intellectual and distant, but it's just so gorgeous. Great stuff. And these still come up. This version, the 1994 version, is it's not too young of a version to. It's still beautiful. It's impeccable stuff. And I think I got this bottle for maybe from 100.
Oh, that's really good.
So, yeah. Do those save searches, Guerlain Patou.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah.
I've never smelled that one. I really.
It's kind of like one of those instruments. Sorry.
Oh, the weirdo?
Thank you for doing that. That's the first thing I would have done.
It's like you have a little stick. It's like when you're in kindergarten, here's your instrument, and you do that, ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. Okay.
Yeah, that's the weirdo. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Sam, it's your turn.
Okay, so my next one is from a brand that I'm pretty obsessed with. They are hailed as the first niche brand by people, but you know, there are a lot of brands that people are like, that was the first niche brand. It's called L'Artisan Parfumeur. This one is called Zing.
Oh.
And I just love all of the old L'Artisan Parfumeurs. Basically, if it's from this brand and it's discontinued and the bottle looks like this, it's good. Like, you can just buy it.
Yeah.
If you see it on eBay and it has the old labeling, no matter what it is, it's going to be good. Pretty much. I don't think I've smelled a bad L'Artisan Parfumeur from...
Can you show us what you mean by old labeling? Because that's the best tip ever.
Yeah. That's so what she has. So this was from the time period where L'Artisan did some color coding and iconography for each of the fragrances, which they completely removed. And all the bottles are more uniform, same colored labels, but that's what it looked like. And I actually know of somebody who did it. They got a tattoo of that very lovely lady with the tiger. They they had a tattoo of it because they love this fragrance so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically a lady who's half naked riding a tiger.
Yeah.
That's golden. And this was inspired by the circus. So you smell popcorn, you smell like hamster feed, you smell leather, you smell, or it's like some dominatrix is there in the ring, like hitting some animal, and at the same time somebody's eating popcorn. At the same time, like all of these things are going on. It's a hoot. It's a whole vibe. It's a time and a place, and when you spray it, you're brought there. And it's such a shame that this was discontinued. And they've discontinued a lot of good ones. Like there was another one, Traversée du Bosphore. I really loved.
That's my next one. I'll talk about it.
Okay. Loads of nice ones. And pretty much I've just like, when I see one of these L'Artisans, I snap it up if I have the money. At the time, I have like 4 or 5 of these. I also had Passage d'Enfer, which is the incense, like incense with lily, churchy and melancholy, but so beautiful and light, like piano being played. Yes, love the brand.
Yeah, I kind of, if we were to summarize it in as reduced a way as possible, I would call it a leather animalic gourmand. If anything could exist, because it has like a gourmand element, but then it's like, this ain't your ordinary gourmand going on here. A little bit of other stuff going on, some waffle cones, and
it's a tease. Like you're being teased, and like you're being pulled in different directions, and you don't really know what it is, but it's really attractive.
It is. It's a thrill. It's a thrill ride. It definitely is. It is a circus in a bottle. For sure. Yeah. Great choice. I almost chose that, but then it just was edged out a little bit by Traversée, which I'll be chatting about.
No, honestly, I don't know if I could choose between the two of them. Yeah. Like they're equally.
So we're covering each other's bases pretty much.
Yes. There. Thank you.
Rachel,
I just want to say that house it's just on my list of perfume houses that I must know, but I just haven't gotten to yet. You know what I mean? Like in that systematic. And so I'm so happy to know that both of you are like, no, these, especially the older ones, this absolutely just must smell. And so they're going to go higher on my list.
If you see like Bois Farine as well, get it. Like they're just... And so they were sold to LVMH. I no longer purchase them. I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying this or anything on the platform, but no, I'm not buying the new ones now that they're LVMH. I'd rather than give my money to another independent brand.
Yeah. So it's just as well. I mean, I haven't really been thrilled or blown away by any of the more recent releases anyhow. So it's just, I have all these like discontinued bottles. I have a few, and I never had a chance to get Zonka. I was just putting that one off, and now that's like impossible to get. I think is Timbuktu in production?
It's still there, yeah. Timbuktu is still there.
I can't imagine it's the same though.
It's not the same.
Like I usually don't, make a big to-do about like, oh, it's a shadow of its former self and all that garbage. But I really think that the LVMH acquisition kind of changed things for the worse as far as the ones that got carried over. So.
It did, and I think they lost a lot of their clientele because this isn't a hype brand like L'Artisan Parfumeur. I don't see it selling well with a younger crowd anyway. So they just cut off a huge chunk of their clientele by doing that and standardizing.
Right. I mean, that was part of its appeal and its allure for a long time because they launched those bottles in the 90s. Before that, they were a little bit more bland and uniform. And then the part of their success was their rebranding in the 90s. That's when they really started to gain momentum. We're talking like late 90s, which really that corresponds with the release of Zing in 1999. That's when they were really starting to gain momentum as a brand. So yeah. Wait, you muted Rachel? No, we didn't mute her. What?
I think Rachel muted herself, no?
Rachel, we can't hear you. Oh. No. So I didn't even notice she was trying to talk over there. We can't hear you.
Sorry, Rachel.
Okay. Yep. Sounds good. She's gonna.
That was really good sign language. Even I understood it.
I know. She's like, I'm gonna go work this out.
You can tell she has kids.
Right. So she'll hopefully be back in a minute here. Travis, yeah. I guess what we could do is, we'll skip Rachel's turn and then we'll go back to her and we'll just.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Artisan and have them together. So I have Traversée de Bosphore, and this one was composed by Bertrand Duchefort, one of my favorite perfumers. Maximalist to Jean-Claude Ellena's, because he's also a favorite perfumer of mine. His minimalism. Bertrand is maximalism. However, it's not loud maximalism. It's just he's able to paint a very storied picture with his compositions. Okay, we have her back. We're going to bring Rachel back in. Okay, here you fine. I'm just going to veer in. So we're just going to link the two L'Artisans together. So I'm starting to talk about Traversée de Bosphore. Traversée de Bosphore is a gourmand that I can get into, and I am not known for really enjoying gourmands. I don't like things that are excessively sweet. I don't like fragrances that are literal in their smelling edible and gourmand. I feel like a gourmand that is compelling to me is one that it still pulls in a direction where it's inedible and it reminds you that it's still a perfume. Like I'm almost edible, but I'm reminding you that this is still a perfume. No drink, no eat.
I meant to be worn, not eaten.
And I have the perfumistic elements there as well. And this does, because there are the floral elements. There is this waxy floral kind of element. There is the orris that is sort of the underpinning of it. It's not an orris fragrance, but there's that underpinning of waxy orris in it. And many people compare this to the scent of like a Turkish delight. And I think that's actually supposed to be one of the notes as well. So a certain sort of light sugared powderiness, a chewiness, a gelatinousness, a rosiness, a little sliver of apple. This is not like your, I'm Parfums de Marly apple. It's not like a big old apple that's being thrown at your head. It's very light apple skin, a little bit of apple flesh in the top. And, a little bit of a cosmetic element, but not so much that I'm reminded immediately of a perfume bag. And also a tulip note. And I want to mention this tulip note because it's not, to me, this is not merely a fantasy note. And I'll tell you why, because I don't know if the two of you are familiar with smelling certain tulips. Some of them do have a scent. They do, especially when you have them cut and they start to ripen. And then when you have cut tulips and the petals, they start to open and the smell really comes out. It has this kind of strangely crayon, like a citrus flavored crayon. I don't know if that makes sense. Like kind of waxy, paraffin wax, soft, like watery floral citrusiness to it. And I picked that up in this as well. So that's my whole spiel on Traversée de Bosphore. It was discontinued. And it is sad to see that the bottles are going for $400 for this size. I remember purchasing this in the gray market for $45.
Oh.
And there's hardly a dent because of dent anxiety. I wear this on a very special occasion when I just feel like this is the mood I need to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? Something must have happened because like 2 years ago, it was on eBay for way, way less. So maybe it's TikTok's fault,
Yeah.
you know?
Could be.
Maybe we just need to stop sharing.
No, I know. I mean, we're actually contributing to this FOMO melees of people getting panicked. Like it's like now, you know, no, like, oh, Travis, just you know, like. But this is the thing. Like, try to get decants, try to get samples, do trading, find out if it really is something that is worth your while before even considering spending that kind of money, because I really wouldn't be an advocate for doing that unless you really knew that you were absolutely madly head over heels for something. Otherwise, it's just not worth it. But yeah.
Personally, I just wouldn't smell it because the FOMO is just horrible. After you've smelled it and you can't get a bottle, you just want to cry yourself to sleep because it's like one of the most beautiful things you've smelled, but you can't have it.
Right.
So, just avoid if you can't afford a vintage bottle.
Even though we're telling you just how brilliant of a creation this is, forget about it.
Like I would fall asleep with my sample next to my nose. Like I was just like tear, like I'm not gonna be able to get it.
Well, so what I've done is, because obviously, you know, we would all go broke unless we were like uber millionaires. But I have my little list of like my if I win the lottery wish list or something, and like when I go to estate sales, when I'm in just random places and I just look under the counter, you never know, just see kind of things. And if so like I'm gonna tell my mind and my heart, oh, never gonna own it, but I still have that list, you know, maybe have a little list that you just tell your mind, I'm never going to own a bottle, but you never know. Random estate sale. Like I've found some incredible things at like, what is that? I'm sorry. My mind is, our whole house has been crazy sick with ear infections and sinus infections. And if I randomly just have to go, if my screen goes blank, it's because I have to go take care of my son who's asleep on the couch. So sorry, hopefully it won't happen.
You are pardoned. Yes.
Thank you.
You are,
but
of course.
Army something, Salvation Army. Yeah, like I found some crazy vintage bottles for $1 at Salvation Army, and I'm like, oh my god, they have no idea how much this costs. Like, you know, so you just never know. So I keep my little list that I'm expecting to never own, but you know, sometimes fate just intervenes because other people maybe don't have their eye out. So,
and patience and perseverance, and also hype dies down before you know it. Once like it swells and there's this curve of everybody's talking about this, and you know, and there could be a discontinuation in the midst of that, and the hype, it continues, but then it dies down for a bit. So, you know, just give it time. There are things that I'm buying now, and now I'm afraid to even mention what I'm buying because then I'll reignite the hype. Things that I'm buying now that were hyped more 3 or 4 years ago, and now they're selling online for a lot less than they used to be. So you just give it time. Also, European sellers too. I buy from European sellers. Certain things are just not sold for as high an amount by European sellers. If you can get past the shipping, even with the shipping, the total cost can be less than maybe the same thing that comes up over here on the other side of the lake. Why don't we do this? I'm going to bounce it back to you, Rachel, and you will share we'll have you share 2. Okay. And then we'll start the circle around.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll start with, and I'll try to go a little quick. I'll start with Ubar, and this is a really interesting bottle because this is the original Ubar. It is an extrait, and it was the one before the one that's more common, Ubar, which is an eau de parfum from 1995. So this is just a little bit before that, and it has very different notes. It's a completely different composition. It has like lemon, muguet, and bergamot instead of the other eau de parfum has like orange and other things. It has rose and jasmine heart, and it has civet, which the eau de parfum does not have civet, sandalwood, and vanilla. And speaking of, you guys gave great advice. So if you see an old label L'Artisan, just grab it. So for me, Amouage, but like even pre-Christopher Chong, like Amouage, if I see an old Amouage attar, like a real attar, I will just buy it. I don't even care what it is if I have the money, right? If it's reasonable. And like an old like Amouage gold or silver, like from way back. If I see one that's even within my price range at all, I'm just gonna buy it, right? That's one of those brands for me that I really love, and it's just hard to find because apparently they still make the actual attars, not like, like Salmon has tried to do like Ifra attars, that aren't, I don't know what they are. Maybe they're, was it Malkuts or something? But yeah, anyway, so this is it's a really cool, interesting fragrance that is just really, it's really pretty. It's very, very, very deep, very layered, very dense. It actually reminds me of like an independent fragrance, an independent or niche fragrance here in America that's like a pine wood even, or like maybe even, I guess you could say like a Russian Atom or something, like incredibly dense. It's still legible. It still has a certain structure and clarity. So it's not like just a soup of notes, but it's just incredibly thick and dense and very beautiful. It's like, actually it fits with the story of Ubar, right? It's actually like overly rich and overly ornate. And it's like, it almost collapses under its own weight of like heaviness, glory, beautiful, like beautifulness, but it doesn't. And so, because the story of Ubar, the city, is that it was so lavish and rich and lush that it actually literally collapsed into a hole. And that's a little bit how the fragrance feels, because it's so dense, so lush, so extravagant. You feel like it's almost illegible, but it's not. And I think something that Eau de Parfum did is it cleaned it up and made it much more legible. And Amouage is already a really, ornate brand. I think, at least for me, when I wear it, it feels very, they make complex sense, right? Which is great and wonderful. And I love that style. I love all the styles. But anyway, this is a really cool perfume to have.
Show us that bottle. Let's get a good look at it. And this is an Amouage. From approximately what year would this bottle be from?
So this is like 1994.
Okay. Look at that. That's pretty cool. I love the asymmetry of it.
Yeah.
And the way that it sits sort of like, it's almost like it's like, what would you call it? Lounging, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chilling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's
it reminds me of like
lay back.
Laying on a chaise longue.
Yeah.
A chaise lounge, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Reminds me of like a
reclined.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, sorry, go ahead.
No, please, by all means. No. I was going to ask you what your next one was.
Oh, perfect. Mine think you're another witch. Use your powers for good. All right. So my next one is Bulgari Black, which I really liked. It for me, this is kind of like, this captures the ultimate American road trip in a bottle for me. You've got like burnt rubber. You've got the leather of the car seats. You've got the fresh air coming through the windows. It's kind of like put your jeans and white t-shirt, rock and roll road trip. Like if you grow up in America, our culture is like, in high school was like, your life is in your car, right? You're dating, you're hanging out, whatever. In college, it's all about road trips, or even if you're younger, road trips with a family. We live our lives, our pleasure time, our recreation time in many ways culturally is on the road. Because it's just part of our it's part of our culture. And this fragrance to me really, really, really captures that. And it's kind of fun, just, open road. Your hair is flowing because the windows are down. It's open road. You've got leather seats, and you're like a little bit of those industrial notes from like the seat belts, and like a new car scent, seat belt.
The new car scent, yeah.
Yeah, seat belts on, and the tires, like maybe you just pulled out somewhere really fast, so you got that burned rubber kind of lingering in the air. And it feels like youth and freedom and freshness to me, and in a very American way. I'm not sure if you don't grow up in America, if that will make sense, but I love this. I love it.
Fragrance Enthusiast has a question for you, Rachel. What is your fave Amouage fragrance marketed to men? And are you a fan of Reflection Man?
I'm a huge fan of Reflection Man. Absolutely. My favorite Amouage on a man. That's really hard because there's so many that I love. I would say that my husband, everyone smells different, right? But my husband smells best maybe in Goldman. But I like so many, and I wear a lot of men's. Like I wear a lot of Amouage men fragrances. But I think my husband smells best in gold.
Do you know what smells really nice on a man?
What?
It's marketed for women, but it's Epic.
Oh, I love Epic.
Epic Woman, yeah.
It smells great on a man.
That's honestly another one. Thomas is, I think Thomas has that and wears it. Yeah. Early Greek. Here's a little PSA. Buy me a coffee. I have a buy me a coffee. 6 cups equals a sample pack. 12 cups equals a full 4 full bottle grab bag, because I have doubles, I have extras. So if you pay, it's $5, so you can do the math. For each coffee, for 12 cups, you get a full 4 full bottle grab bag. I can never say that without fumbling. 4 full bottle grab bag plus a sample pack, a generous sample pack, because I have a lot of samples. US only, please, unfortunately. This comment is pinned. There is a hyperlink. You can go directly to buymeacoffee.com. And just want to throw that out there. You don't have to buy 6 cups. You could buy 1 cup or 2 cup or 3 cups, whatever you're willing to contribute. Help support me, helps support this type of content. So I just wanted to share that PSA. And we're going to move on to Sam and her next one. It looks like we have 2 left here. I have 2 left, and then we'll wrap things up. So here we go. Hi.
So actually I had a Bulgari fragrance as well. So I'm gonna talk about that one then. And I think actually it's quite related to black. I had black and I couldn't smell it on myself after an hour, so I gave it to a better home. But yeah, I'm gonna have to look up the perfumer. Eau Parfumée Au Thé Noir is the black tea from the tea line, which now consists of the white tea and the green tea, I think, are the only ones left. There used to be a red tea as well, which was great. And yeah, it's just so sad that Bulgari has decided to pull this one. It was still available a couple of years ago, so it's a pretty recent discontinuation, and you probably still can find it online. But this is really dark brewed tea, oolong tea, and it's kind of like leathery as well. It does have something that reminds you of black if you have black as well. And it's just like really classy and suave, and kind of has this clean patchouli in it as well. I really love tea scents, and I love like a refreshing bergamot kind of tea, but then I also really love a black tea, probably even more, because I just find it to be such an unusual scent profile. So much so that I went on Etsy and I was like looking up tea fragrances, and there's sellers on there that create some. There was like a Lapsang Souchong tea fragrance, and there was like this Earl Grey fragrance, which I also really want to try. But it's just, yeah, on the mainstream market, a black tea is hard to find. And I also have is it the extrait? So it's the gold label. This one is the EDT, I believe. I have the EDP or the extrait, and this is with oud added to it, but it's a clean oud. So it's kind of Arabian in a way. It is kind of Arabian in a way, whereas this one is more of that black tea, but with that same leather that is in black. Like, I really think, Rachel, if you haven't tried this, try to compare the two.
Yeah. Thank you. I wrote it down. I'm super excited.
And it's just more potent for me. Like, I can smell these for ages, and they're very liked as well. Like when I wear this and walk past people, they're like, "Hey, you." Hello.
If we're talking about compliments, I've gotten actually compliments a number of times from wearing it.
I get compliments on these, but I mean, I say that just to, not because it's something that's like number one on my reasons to buy a fragrance, but it depends on the setting that you want to be in. I think like sometimes you do want to be liked and you do want to be attractive scent wise, and I think there's nothing wrong with that either. So if I were going out on a date and I wanted to impress somebody, this would be one of the fragrances I would consider wearing. Whereas maybe I probably wouldn't wear. No, actually, I'd wear all of these. I'm pretty. I'm pretty like nonchalant with it. I think it depends on the wearer. Like, as long as you're wearing the fragrance and it's not wearing you, you can pull off anything. But just knowing feedback from other people helps me make choices sometimes. Like, if you want to get hired, for example, and it's an interview, you might care what they think about you and how you smell.
I agree that there is a similarity between Bulgari Black and Ote Noir. If you can imagine it this way, you know, maybe if you were to dial back a little bit of the rubberiness and a little bit of the vanilla, and then fill it in with like a black tea, and then sort of like a slightly different kind of leather feel to it, but it's very similar in that respect. Except for that tea, that black tea, you're absolutely right. It's hard to find a good black tea fragrance. I think that it's a difficult note to really pin down for perfumer. And so I think that's one of my favorite tea fragrances. I have like a big 5-ounce, like I think 150 ml, like the large bottle of it. Really good stuff. Yeah. I didn't even know it was discontinued. I'm glad that I have a ton of it in that bottle because yeah, very nice. Good one. Good one. Okay. So we're going to move over to me. We're going to just kind of do it a little bit differently, and then I'll go to Rachel, and then so on and so forth. My next one here is actually a discontinued fragrance from Diptyque. And this is an early Diptyque. This is a Diptyque that was released in 1988. It is a fougere from Diptyque, and it is called Eau de Lide. Eau de Lide. So I'm going to zoom in so people can see, and we see this fawn, this satyr, if you will, the little horned little guy here. I'm going to show you here. It's Eau de Lide. This is a splash, and big bottle.
I love the old Diptyque bottles.
Oh, my favorite Diptyques are the releases that came out the first 20 or so releases were all really brilliant. And hit or miss by the past, in the past 15 years or so. But I love this. This is it's a very minimal breakdown of bitter orange, lavender, and vanilla in this vanilla musk in the dry down. So this is kind of reminds me of a perfumistic orange creamsicle with a lot of lavender, and it's just so delightful, so pleasant, and so it's unisex, but it definitely reminds me of fougères from the 80s done Diptyque style, and that orange is so forward, and I just love that. It's so there's a creaminess to it. It's just
Sounds awesome.
It just makes me sad. They just don't make them quite like this. They're just the balance between these 3 or 4 elements. Think of it this way. Now, if you're a fan of, say, like Calandre and Styx, so Calandre and Styx, that is lavender, vanilla, musk. This would be kind of similar to that, but with a very realistic, bright, bitter orange in the top. And the lavender is pushed much more forward, and the vanilla dialed back a bit, and it's much more musky in the dry down. Does that make sense?
That sounds even better.
Yeah, it's an amazing description. Yeah.
I actually like it a bit more. I love Calandre and Styx. I love wearing it at night, especially. But this one is the special reserve. So if we're thinking, this is the top shelf, and Calandre and Styx is for more regular wear, and this is for a special night to myself where I want to just lavish in it.
It's a huge bottle, though. You could fill a bathtub with that.
Yeah, right. That kind of reminds me of Royal Bandit that was made to fill your bath water. Yeah, you could totally put it in your bath for sure.
Or you could mix it with an oil and then pour it in your bath.
For sure. Right. And I do have a decant with a spray, but sometimes I just splash it on. This has been discontinued since I think 2010, 11. It's been discontinued a while. Yeah. But it still smells fresh and just radiant. Yay. Yeah. I'm all for discontinued diptyques. I have Jardin de Clos. Jardin de Clos is another discontinued diptyque that I will be featuring during a lilac week on Instagram. There's another one that is one of the best basil fragrances, and the name is escaping me. Another great discontinued one. There's a few of them that have been discontinued from their earlier days, and gosh, they're so good. But I guess they just weren't made for these times. All right, we're gonna pass it back over to you, Sam.
Oh, sorry, I had to unmute.
It's okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna shout out a recent brand or like a more modern brand that has discontinued a fragrance, and it's a US brand called Heretic.
Mm.
And this is called Dirty Jasmine. I'm thinking the reason why it was discontinued is that the modern nose couldn't grasp this kind of jasmine. So now they do more like dirty coconut sells really well, dirty mango, like mango coconut stuff. I think their clientele has veered more in that direction versus like the animalic direction. So this is a realistic jasmine, and I do recommend this whenever there's like a real jasmine head that asks me for a jasmine, like
Me.
photorealistic jasmine. It smells quite indolic to begin with, so very much like putting your nose up against a jasmine bush. It's kind of like if you smell Jasmin Cigarette by Eldo.
Yeah.
This is minus the cigarette part. It's the jasmine. Like it's just very, very good. It's very realistic, and I think that there was some sort of mismatch in their marketing so that their customer didn't understand this. But if this was in another brand's line, it would do extremely well, if you understand what I mean. Like,
Yes.
it was just placed amongst the wrong people. Like, if all of a sudden Diptyque went out and created something like, one of the things I mentioned, right? If they brought out a Zing, no one would buy it. Like, they wouldn't get it because it doesn't fit in with
Right.
the overall messaging. So yeah, really great jasmine. Sad that it's discontinued. This brand, I think they do like a lot of naturals. It's supposed to be 100% natural, I think. So yeah, you got some absolute in there.
And I'm sorry, what was the brand again? I apologize. I can't.
Heretic. They're actually not crazy prices either. Like I just like their ethos to begin with. Now I've pulled away because, like I said, like they got rid of my favorite and have moved more in that like younger crowd,
so sweeter
type of thing, because they've obviously they can sell way more by moving to that side of things. But I think they started off with a really good intention.
Yeah. I tried I think it's a dirty Hinoki, and I thought that was a really good woody coniferous scent. And they had one a while back. I remember I tried it at Barney's, and then I had a pretty sizable sample of blood cedar. And that was around the time where they seemed really cutting edge. Like, ooh, what is this cutting edge?
That was one of the first ones I tried too. Yep.
It seemed really cutting edge, really edgy. Like, it was a cool brand. I mean, it's still cool. Some of the cool stuff is still part of the line, but you're absolutely right. They got to pay them their bills too. They got to make a profit, so they have some kind of like more accessible stuff that they're adding to the lineup as well. And I think that they sell them at like Blue Mercury. That's a chain here. So if you have one of those in your area, you can go in and try out their stuff. You can sample it.
So would you guys recommend like getting the sample pack from them even today?
I don't know about today. I think when they first released, yes. But if you see any of the older ones, like if they did a fragrance with Dita Von Teese as well, like they were really trying to be edgy. And I feel like, so I tried them at Liberty in London, and they were quite close to the DS and Durga counter. So they kind of did fit in like amongst, like next to DS and Durga. So I was like, okay, they're along those lines of like kind of being experimental. And DS and Durga does well still while being experimental. So I don't know. I haven't read their balance sheet, so I can't make decisions on their behalf. But
but they were at Barney's. So at Barney's,
it was like promising,
Yeah, and like Barney's was all about trying to find those cutting edge brands. That was like where I first discovered like Serge Lutens and Frédéric Malle and Comme des Garçons fragrances, all like at Barney's. But R.I.P. Barney's, New York. That was like the place for me to sample stuff. Like best selection. That's where my love affair with a lot of fragrances started.
Rest in peace, Barney's.
Yes. Rachel, we'll move on to you now, and then we'll start our last round. This is the penultimate now.
All right. Cool. So I will do something that I discovered because I got a mini as a part of like a kind of you buy like a group of minis online or something. And I dropped this and smashed it in the bathroom. And our bathroom was like heaven for like a week, and I was like, okay, I love this fragrance forever now. And I'm sure you know this. It is 1000 by Jean Patou,
Yes.
and it's wonderful. Patou, I mean, like all of Patou's fragrances are are amazing. And it's just huge floral bouquet, all the beautiful florals. So much, apparently they use just so much, so many. Oh gosh, I can't speak. I apologize. They use
Okay.
so many naturals, such a large amount of naturals back then, that is just ultra luxurious. And for me, Jean Patou fragrances truly are like, they're not that expensive to buy online. Really, they're not, but they're ultra luxurious. And if you like florals and if you like big floral bouquets, they're just ultra luxurious. Like if I was going to go on a trip, maybe a romantic trip with my husband, and stay in the Ritz and just really be luxurious, just to enjoy that experience, something like this I might wear, right? Because it really is just, to me, it smells like old money luxury.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Agreed.
pretty much Jean Patou gets an honorable mention, like everything, because the whole entire house has folded. Like Jean Patou, that's my choice for like everything pretty much that I've smelled from Jean Patou. I've had appreciation for. The EDT version of Me or 1000 is extraordinary. Also, the EDT version of Joy is such.
I had this as a backup in case one of you guys picked it. Picked 1000.
You know what? This is modern joy, I dare to say. Like this is like this is joy without the vintage vibes.
Yeah.
But still happy and
yeah. Okay, I love that. I'm gonna buy that like right away too.
No, don't blind buy in. Don't blind buy. What I'm saying.
Don't do it. Resist. See if there's a place in your vicinity that maybe you can go in and see if there's a Blue Mercury. I swear to God, I think it was Blue Mercury that I went into, and they're carrying the Heretic line. Yeah, you can also sample Joe Malone stuff in Blue Mercury. Take that as you will. I mean, I like a few of the Joe Malone. But there's no discontinued Joe Malones in this live stream, though. The ones that I appreciate are still in production. But I have another Botany de Chauffeur. I have Bois d'Amboy. This is from the house of Eau d'Italie. And for some reason, they discontinued every contribution that Botany de Chauffeur did. And they were all really brilliant creations. This is the one that I have. I also have Magnolia Romana, which I will be featuring during a week of what I call miscellaneous florals, because they're all the florals that I don't have more than one fragrance that really features it. That's more on that another time. But on Bois d'Amboy, this is a really distinct fragrance. There's really nothing else quite like it. The most forward note in it is tobacco. And but there's also this oddly sort of digestive kind of scent, like a Benedictine or something that's in the top notes. So it's not like your typical kind of like, this is whiskey, this is boozy. It's like, to me, it smells like specifically like Benedictine.
That's really interesting.
And what's even more interesting, and there's also carrot. There's like a carrot scent. Not like carroty iris, carrot, like boiled carrot, but in this really fascinating way. And there's something about that I love. And I also swear to God, even though it's not listed as a note, there's costus, like a costus accord in this, because it does have that sort of sebaceous, skin and hair, and like the oils of your skin kind of feel, that animalic, carnal kind of scent to it.
Is that, I'm sorry, JJ, is that what sebaceous means? I just don't know what sebaceous
means. Sebaceous meaning, I'll join everybody in here. Sebaceous meaning of sebum. We're going to have like a little biology lesson.
Sorry, I apologize.
Sebum as in the oils and the secretions that come from our skin that give it its characteristic scent. And I've decided to use it as a descriptor for costus, because it very much embodies that. But yes, the goo that comes from your skin, that it has that sensuous kind of smell to it. it's not like in here really forward. It is tempered by the other elements. It is really first and foremost, though, like a tobacco scent, though, but it's definitely unlike any other tobacco scent that I smelled. It dries down a little bit more balsamic, some patchouli in the base. Excellent, excellent stuff. Really unique. Really, it's just sad that another brilliant creation has been discontinued in favor of, back to the same subject, certain releases that probably are going to make more money for the brand. This business is business. Got to get that vanilla. Got to get that, that toffee, that caramel, that cotton candy, that maltol. Got to throw that all in with just a little bit of the florals. Oh, we don't want it to be too floral. It's going to smell kind of gross, kind of old lady. Oh no, let's drown it with the sweetness. Oh, that's better. Sorry to sound cynical, but
no, I think you're pretty much reading my mind. So,
because that, jasmine now with a lot of recent releases is sort of like this vague hedione.
Yeah.
Like with vanilla. And that's not jasmine to me. The same thing with tuberose, like some tuberose releases recently. Vaguely. And ambers now have so little labdanum in them. It's pretty much like a vanilla with a hint of amber in it, with a hint of labdanum and a hint of benzoin. It's like vanilla is just it's like this growing metastatic mass that's just taking over so many fragrance styles right now, and then they'll throw like cherry, and then what's the other, pistachio, and like why can't it be a more inventive kind of cherry or pistachio? Imagine like cherry in like a chypre with like a weird kind of like bitter black cherry. No, it has to be the sweet, tasty kind. All right. That was my choice. Okay, it's Sam's turn, right? We're doing the last round.
Well, actually, I've run out of fragrances. I had 6.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because I said 6 or 7. Did you have any more, Rachel?
I just have one.
Then this will be the last one, and then we'll just start wrapping things up. Back to you, Rachel.
And it's really quick because I think everyone already knows this one anyway. This is Bellamy. I'm lucky to have the shaker bottle, and this is just one of my favorite masculines that's super classic. It uses sage in a way that I really like. Beautiful green, just classic woody chypre fragrance.
Gorgeous.
It's just, super, super, super well balanced. It's so beautiful. It's just so perfectly tuned. It's like an orchestra. It's like an orchestra that's perfectly tuned, playing Mozart. Classic. It's just the classic, right? Think of like a classic Hollywood star. You go.
It's also like, if you like leather, start there. Or okay, maybe not start there, but in the beginning of your leather thingy journey or what have you.
It's great reference leather. It's like it's like that aspect of leather, the Styrax leather. It's not necessarily the Castoreum leather. It's not necessarily the IBQ leather that we would see with Germain Sayé and Bandit and everything that came after that. And it isn't a Suederal leather. It's not the the Tom Ford kind of, what do you call it? Tuscan leather kind. It is that Styrax leather, and you have that Styrax resin, which kind of just gives that certain je ne sais quoi, kind of like treading the line between synthetic and natural, but you're not sure what it is, but it actually does come from a tree kind of thing. That's just so evocative. You find that very much in Bellamy. You see that. You see sort of echoes of Bellamy in the release, also composed by Bertrand Duchefort, Corpus Equus from Naomi Goodsir, is sort of almost a sort of like paying homage to Bellamy as well. So excellent. It's an excellent reference leather for sure. I agree.
And it's, honestly, even for me, the leather is so perfectly integrated. There's no rough edges anywhere, and everything.
It's buttery. It's good.
It's not a rugged leather. It's not like a rough and ready. It's not like a Russian leather that kind of punches you in the face. It's very, very rough.
I forget leather sometimes, honestly. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, like shoe leather. I think that Styrax kind of gives sort of that effect of like a fine leather shoe. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so stick around. We're gonna go backstage. Basically, just means we stay put, but we're not live. We don't have an audience anymore. We'll chat a little bit more before we say toodaloo for the evening, and I'm gonna get started with closing things out with the outro music. Just give me a moment. I wish I had somebody else to do this for me, but I don't. Hi. This is the new music because the last one all of a sudden now, copyright is an issue when it wasn't for months. So I have a new one. Electrobach. I'll put the description in, I'll put the name of the track in the description. So a lot of talking. This was a great discussion. In 2 weeks, we're going to come back with Saskia Wilson-Brown, who is a co-founder of Institute of Art and Olfaction. She'll be joining us for a spirited discussion, so be sure to check that out. That will be 2 weeks from today. That will be a later engagement. That will be 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week, I am gearing up to do a new video, and the subject will be coniferous fragrances from pine, spruce, cypress, fir, juniper, I don't know, hemlock, larch, you name it. There's so many of them. Sequoia. I have one. I have a Comme des Garçons Sequoia. That will be one of them. So I'm going to be doing that next week. And then there is going to be a new Notes and Accord for the coming month. And that one is going to be for a focus on animalics. So I'll be talking about all the animalic materials. So stay tuned for that. And we're going to sign off for now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this live stream. If you missed out on it, of course, as usual, it's going to be archived and you get to watch the rest of it. Sam, thank you so much for accepting our invitation as a guest. This has been really
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun. And thank you, everyone who commented as well. It's been really fun reading all your comments.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We're going to sign off for now. Be well. And ladies, just stick around and backstage. We'll chat a little bit. All right, everybody. Take care.